Hi everyone, this is a remote viewing 5-year forecast for a new cryptocurrency that we are calling CICO 9, and in addition, we will include data about CICO 10 in this forecast as well. CICO 9 has an interesting use and is closely related to CICO 10. Also, as usual, both are currently inexpensive. We have done a great many studies on how new cryptocurrencies that we hoped would survive and thrive into the future, and in general we have found that most of them do not do well in the long run in terms of adoption. We have decided to look at 2 cryptocurrencies this month that have some stuff in common, but fundamentally they performed very differently over the 5-year duration of our forecast. CICO stands for Contemporary Investigations of Cryptocurrency Opportunities. Again, the purpose of our CICO forecasts is to attempt to use remote viewing in the context of our economic forecasting methods to determine the likelihood that a cryptocurrency will survive and thrive into the future. We are trying to focus on cryptocurrencies where the initial cost per coin is generally small and the potential for growth is significant. We offer our CICO forecasts free to the public to watch as videos on YouTube, but the real name of the currency in the forecast has been changed so that the name referenced in the video is fictional. Potential investors can watch the forecast to see if they want to purchase the actual identity of the currency during the forecast period. While we have begun our CICO forecasts by publishing results for coins which we believed were having positive results, we now intend to publish a wider range of forecasts. We have moved on to something that is more of a subscription-based model, where those people who purchase one of our CICO forecast identities also get the identities of all other CICO forecasts that are available and current through the end of the year 2021. There is no extra cost for this. CICO forecasts typically are 5 or more years, and we occasionally update the forecasts, which will extend the forecast further into the future. This allows us to share our results that are not good, which theoretically allows people to dump currencies from their portfolios that look like they will not survive. But again, in our research, some currencies did come back with strong and positive results. CICO 9 is one of those currencies which have positive results. However, our currencies for CICO 10 were not positive. I will explain more about CICO 10 further after we discuss CICO 9. For these CICO studies, we normally probe for adoption, and that is whether a significant number of people and institutions start to use the currency. The theory is that if the currency survives and people use the currency, then it will make a good investment. So let me outline what we did with this CICO study for CICO 9. This experimental design has 2 parts for the target, which is what the viewers were supposed to perceive. The first is known now, and that is the base target, which has unique topographical elements. The second part of the target is made up of additional elements that are added to the target after the end of the forecast period using CGI software. We have a video on our website on Farsight describing our forecasting method and how it is used for this study. All of the viewers described the currently verifiable elements of the base surface target for CICO 9 very well, which in this case was an image of a glacier on the west coast of New Zealand. Moreover, all of the viewers had similar or corresponding numbers of elements added to the base surface, and those results tell us how the currency will perform over the forecast period according to the rules of our experimental design. In our studies, there are a possible of 11 elements that can be placed on the target using CGI software 5 years into the future. And our remote viewers are describing what the current target looks like 5 years into the future after it is assembled using the CGI software. The rules of how those elements are employed in the target creation process exist now, and those rules are tied to how the currency performs during the forecast period. So when our remote viewers describe what the target looks like in the future, we will then know how the currency will perform. For CICO 9, our 4 remote viewers described the future target as having 6, 4, 3, and 4 elements out of the 11 possible elements that are there. Normally, targets have 3 or 4 elements are good indicators of positive growth. We are also utilizing an aggregated version of the temperature probe analysis for the CICO. Temperature probe analysis is normally used to obtain direction indicators such as specific timelines for the week-to-week or month-to-month or even the year-to-year. The aggregation method helps us centralize the timeline measurements so that we have one measure for the entire forecast period rather than multiple measures for each week or each year and so on. This tends to increase the accuracy of our temperature probe analysis, and it allows us to obtain an independent measure for the aggregate CICO change. We can then compare this with the measure obtained using complexity analysis. For the CICO 9, the aggregate temperature probe analysis helps us interpret the complexity analysis as well. More specifically, there are 24 measures for the temperature which are mapped to changes for adoption for this currency. Of those 24 measures, 16 were positive and 8 were negative. If you weigh these measures by the actual perceived temperatures, then the numbers are 33 positive and 13 negative. Thus, the aggregate temperature probe analysis corresponds well enough with the complexity analysis to indicate that the CICO does find a significant user base with a rise in adoption over the next 5 years. Now, for a numerical comparison with respect to the other CICO projects that we've done in the past, if we average the number of elements perceived by each viewer and divide that by the total possible elements for the target, we get a proportion of the total possible elements that the viewer receives. Then we can average that proportion across all of the other viewers and get an overall index of how the currency will fare from 0 to 1. An index number of 1 would mean that the viewers perceived every possible element that could be used in the forecast, and that means that a currency would be very popular and be adopted by an exceptionally large community. An index number of 0 would be the opposite, which the viewer perceived no additional elements over and above the base surface, which would mean that the currency would be expected to perform quite badly in terms of adoption. For our CICO 1 currency, that number is 0.66. For CICO 2, that is 0.725. For CICO 3, that is 0.575. For CICO 4, that is 0.567. For CICO 6, that is 0.389. For CICO 9, the number is 0.472. When combined with the positive indicators for aggregate temperature probe analysis, this indicates a significantly strong case for a rise in adoption for CICO 9. So, our remote viewing results are positive for CICO 9 currency in terms of adoption. This does not guarantee that the currency will perform well over the next 5 years, but given that we now have multiple remote viewing sessions done by very experienced remote viewers that all indicate that the currency's future performance is strong, this suggests that the future timelines of this currency in general are very positive. One last point, this currency is currently inexpensive. My own thought is that it is best to keep the currency for the full forecast period, or at least until one sees a substantial return on one's investment. This is not day trading where one can buy or sell in the morning and they need to know the exact upward or downward movements down to the minute or even the hour. Remind yourself this is a 5-year forecast. Finally, we have investigated one other cryptocurrency that did not do well, and we will label that one CICO 10. CICO 10 had strong negative indicators with respect to the aggregate temperature probe analysis and worrisome magnitude indicators for complexity analysis. Specifically, CICO 10 had roughly the same magnitude indicators from the complexity analysis as CICO 9, but the temperature probe analysis swung in the exact opposite direction as CICO 9, indicating negative movement to a similar degree of change as CICO 9's positive movement. This is why CICO 10's results are not positive. Again, our CICO 9 results look good from our remote viewing perspective. CICO 10, not so much. And remember, our disclaimer. No one at Farsight is a licensed financial advisor, so anything that anyone at Farsight does that relates to the use of remote viewing to predict financial or economic outcomes of any type, including the performance, however defined, or selling prices of cryptocurrencies, stocks, commodities, or anything else, is done for entertainment and educational purposes only. Everyone doing investments are doing so at their own risk. These are experiments in remote viewing, and there are no guarantees or warranties being made, either expressed or implied. Nonetheless, these efforts are truly interesting on a grand scale, and we at Farsight believe that after we do this for a while, it will be hard for anyone to ignore the reality of remote viewing. As we have said in the past, may you follow your own intuitions, make wise investment decisions, and become rich. Thank you for supporting our efforts at Farsight. Together we will change the world for the better. I'm Aziz Brown from Farsight.